Okay.
If I have a chance to look at the minutes, everybody okay with the minutes?
I am.
So I need a motion and a second.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Have a second? Got a second? Get that, Ansel? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? They pass. Gina, I guess we're gonna go with the financial.
Okay. If you turn over to page 3. We actually operated in the black about 1,500 because we always discount the project account. So that takes us down to 58,423. Because of a non-recurring expense, that's how we got in. We normally would have been in operating in the black. Page 4. On income, discounting the grants and appropriations, we have a pretty decent month, 45,929, and then expenses, discounting again the project account, 58,423. We're 6% above budget because of the non-occurring expense that will actually come off next year, and we're 2% below projected budget. Page 5, again, discounting the project account. Excuse me. Discounting the project account is 12,494. Page 6, year-to-date comparison. It ended up discounting the project account again. We come out at 73,14. Go to the balance sheet, page 7A. Our liquid assets are 718,286. Total assets 874,216. And then our accounts receivable, all are deemed current and collectible, except for, if you'll notice on RMB, the 8132. That's what we're trying to get back from what we're taking for TDT. So that has been billed and sent to his attorney. Any questions?
I do.
Sure.
So, can we be a little bit more restrictive on what these are exactly? I don't know what I'm looking at. I mean, y'all probably do. I'm like all these, I know
Sure.
y'all probably got a system, but what am I looking at here? I just don't understand.
On what page are you on?
It's 3.
Okay. Page 3. We are a leasehold operation, so the majority of our income comes from renting to our tenants the land.
Okay.
And so that is what the income statement, wharfage is product that comes in across the water.
And this is a monthly.
Yes, this is
Right.
monthly.
Okay.
And the rent income, 95% of the time will be the same thing every month, unless there's a lease that has been renewed.
Okay.
Okay. Wharfage and fleeting will change monthly depending upon how and what our tenants do, how much product they bring in. Interest, that's just from the money market account, so that's just based off of bank percentages.
Okay.
Okay. The reason that we discount project accounts or grants and appropriations is because those things do not come in on a monthly basis. Those things they're constantly changing. Like the grants and appropriations, it says $72.50 for the month, but, with them, they pay us once a year and we break it down per line,
Okay, I got you.
okay?
Them being the county and the city.
Mm-hmm. And then,
The county pays quarterly, but city
yeah, county pays quarterly and the city pays yearly.
project accounts capitalized.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Is this an appropriate time to talk about R&D? The auction is gonna be when? And we'll fill you in on that.
I think it already happened, didn't it?
November 1st?
They
Yes.
changed it again, I
They
believe.
changed it.
So I called Stuart Maples this morning,
Okay.
left him a voicemail, so I had talked to him. Stuart's pretty good about calling folks back, so as soon as I hear from him, I'll report back to that.
R&B, Howard, you can probably explain it better. Tell him what R&B's function was.
R&B was the fleeting service that we had. And they became delinquent on their accounts. And then they became delinquent in their service to our tenants. So we basically vacated the lease with them and brought in TVT, James Marine, to do our fleeting because he was in violation of the lease terms. Since then, he has filed for bankruptcy and he has equipment still in place on TVT's leasehold now, which we are crediting TVT monthly, and that's where the $8,132 is coming from. It's what we're having to forgive TVT because he's occupying part of their space with his equipment. And then, of course, it's in the court's hands right now. They've set an auction 3 different times and it's been pushed back, so it hasn't happened yet.
I've heard the auction is November 1st. And so then, so his stuff will be gone. I don't know, they could have changed it again. I mean, you know how the court works.
Well, I know the original plan was to sell it without a reserve. But again, I'll have to confirm that that continues to be the plan with the attorney. But originally, I think the plan was to sell it without a reserve, so they were pretty confident that they were going to be able to get rid of it all.
Okay. Do you have any, y'all have any questions about R&B other than what we've explained? Okay, so
What they did to the barges need moved around in the port. They moved barges for the
Okay.
tenants. And that's what their function was.
so when it comes in, they take it and move it off where it needs to go to unload, load, and that's what they were supposed to do.
Yeah,
And this new company is doing that.
Absolutely.
Is being, they can't do as much as they could do if this equipment was out of the way.
well, they're actually doing very well considering having to work around his, because he has 3 boats still in the harbor.
He has 5 boats.
So he still has 5 boats in the harbor, so they're working around it, and they're doing very well. None of our tenants have had any complaint whatsoever, so they're doing very well.
He also has equipment in the building that they lease, so that's why their lease payment's been reduced so much a day until that's all vacated.
So they lease a finite amount of real estate from us. So it's only right to prorate that, since they're not being able to use all that leasehold.
And in all the years I've been on this board of buildings, this is the first problem we've ever faced like this. So welcome to the
Wow.
right time.
I'm excited.
But it's getting fixed. I think he's cooperating. It's gonna get worked out. It's just, anytime you get into legal issues, it's gonna drag on.
Right. In bankruptcy.
Mhm.
Yes, everything's gotta be clear to the court.
Yeah, like I said, they pushed his auction day. This will be the 4th time, right? This is the 4th time that they pushed it up. And so as long as they keep doing that, we continue to keep giving credit to TVT. Because I mean, they're kind of stuck in the middle, so, but they're doing very well.
All right, so I need, if everybody's okay with the financial report, I need someone to make a motion to approve.
So moved.
I need a second. Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passed. All right, now we have the legal report.
No report other than what we'll talk about in new business.
Okay. In old business, what about the conveyor?
So we have started having, weekly Teams meetings with everybody involved with the grant. We had one Tuesday, I believe it was.
Can you give them a little bit of background on it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Woodall Grain has the granaries over there. Part of their operation is leaned out over, if you've gone across the water, you've seen those big brown concrete looking steel big things. That's called a sail, a mooring sail. So the end of their, what is that thing?
Grain.
Conveyor, there we go. The end of their conveyor sits on one of these sails. And we got notice from Bubba Dawes, who was doing some work in the harbor. He said, hey, there's an issue with that sail. And so we sent divers in, and sure enough, that sail has major critical cracks in it, actually voids, that a lot of the fill underneath the concrete has actually come out. And so we're having to replace that or fix it, and we're trying to get a grant to help fix that, because it's a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. In that grant, it's also going to be included is Alliance Sand, who handles all of the sand and the fertilizer and stuff in the port. They have a sail that is basically doing the same thing, but they don't have any equipment on top of it. So theirs is not quite as critical, but part of the grant money will be split between Woodall and Alliance Sail.
Okay.
Okay? That grant is called the ARC grant, which is Appalachian Regional Commission, which is, it stretches, oh my gosh, I don't even have I should have brought that map that they sent.
430 counties, isn't it?
423 counties.
Wow.
Yeah. And we have involved NACOG to help us with, no, not that one.
Yeah, they're doing.
Is it that one?
They're
They're
doing
doing
administration.
administration on that grant. So we do have them helping us out, which has been absolutely fantastic. We did get, during that meeting, Andrea with Mississippi requested that we get not only letters of support, but also return on investment from Woodall and Alliance. I was able to get Alliances. I haven't gotten Woodall's yet, but according to Bailey, we should have something the beginning of next week. We're just kind of we're hoping to, November 29th is the deadline.
All right, and Robert Fry's working on the engineering report. That's a critical step as well. He's very close to being finished with that. Because I've been working on the Title VI for the public dock, that requirement, and then the ARC, the narrative portion of that, along with NACOG. It's on track. It's just a whole lot more difficult when you're working two states, getting everybody on the same page, but I think it's gonna happen in terms of meeting the deadline.
It's going a lot easier than we kind of expected it to be, not only between, two different counties. You're involving 423 counties, and you're involving two states, and so it's going smoothly, all things considered.
Anything to add about that includes your art grant report?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And how's our public dock?
I'm gonna let you handle that one, because I haven't heard anything on the earmark.
No, the NEPA is still ongoing, but it's getting close to finalized. The Title VI, we're waiting on them to respond to our most recent revisions. We haven't heard anything back on that. Those are the two critical things that have to be completed before we get an actual award. Then once the award happens, we can start back up with engineering. We're at 30% design. We got there before the earmark. Robert said, once we have the award, because we can't do any more and get reimbursed, he thinks maybe 3-4 months, ready to go to bid, and then about 8 or 9 months to a year construction time.
We have a public dock, but the public can't use it because it's not safe. So I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Part of it,
We
yeah.
have been, part of it. So we're working to get it fixed so that it can be used by the public.
We got a roughly $3.6 million earmark through Congressman Adderholt's office in the federal budget. That's being granted through MARAD, the Maritime Administration. But we have to jump through all the hoops with environmental and Title VI is actually ADA and, well, discrimination laws. You have to have a plan, which we submitted a plan. And then once they approve it, it will be adopted and put on our website, and we'll have to put up posters and things of that nature. Even though we have a discrimination policy, it didn't meet the federal guidelines for accepting federal money. So all that's ongoing, but we have to get the award before we can do anything further to move forward on getting to construction. It's about a $4 million project.
Everything's expensive.
Yeah, especially on the water.
Okay, we're gonna move into new business now. And what about our conflict of interest?
So I can speak to those. So basically, we talked about last meeting, amending our bylaws to kind of update those things, to include items that you're typically going to find in corporate bylaws. So I took the opportunity to do that. Just a couple of things about that. Number one, these really aren't as long as some bylaws that you see, and the reason for that is a lot of our notice provisions and that kind of thing are dictated by Alabama law. I mean, so the Port Authority itself was created under a statutory scheme that the legislature adopted. So, you know, the composition of our board and how it's elected and all that kind of thing is really driven by statute. We don't have to regurgitate all that in these bylaws. That having been said, typically your bylaws are going to be the contract among the board of directors and the corporation on how the conduct of business is going to be handled within the corporation. It's not really the place that you see things like a conflict of interest policy or other kind of policy driven things that really dictate relationships with maybe your board of directors and third parties and all that kind of thing. So for that reason, in our old bylaws, we had conflict of interest provisions. So in addition to the bylaws, I've also drafted a conflict of interest policy that we would have in place in the event that we adopt these first amended bylaws at our next meeting. So I thought what it might be best for us to do would be just to make these available to the directors throughout the next month. They'll be available here. The staff can email a copy to the directors so that you guys have an opportunity to review those. And then we'll just put that on here as an agenda item next month so that we could vote to approve the first amended bylaws as well as the Port Authority's conflict of interest policy. And obviously, you know, once you've had a chance to review those, next month I can answer any questions you may have prior to the vote on that.
Okay. Any more on that? Anybody comments or? Okay. Now, so this is kind of like on your feet, lose your seat.
Yeah.
We're electing new officers.
I was gonna ask if you wanted to wait till we had a full board, or if you want to elect David for everything since he's not here.
So
I'll second that motion.
what positions on the board?
Really, the only thing that's open is secretary treasurer.
Okay. Does anybody want to be secretary treasurer?
You might want to drive
Explain the duties of secretary treasurer.
Ryan said
You
no.
can't read my writing, so I'm
No, you don't have to take any notes.
No. That, what Darlene does is, if you'll notice the black folder in the middle, we do, payroll, you just sign off on all the payroll, bank statements, journal entries, things like that. That's really all it is. You just sign off on that you know that that's where the money's going.
As treasurer?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay, somebody make a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Ryan, or no, is this an appointment or an election?
Election.
It's an election.
It's an appointment.
Okay.
Anyway, Ryan Lowe as secretary treasurer.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
There you go. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. Now, you're gonna take my spot over here, president.
I've done that.
Ryan, just to let you know,
I've done that.
you have about 5
I
months
run
of
meetings.
signatures you need to sign off on.
Today? Can I take it home?
No, I gotta stay here, sorry.
Yeah.
You got any power of attorneys? I'll get somebody.
I'll make a motion.
Cover museum board, all in 1 year.
Okay. All right, well, David slipped by.
He did, didn't he?
Okay, the dredging, are we starting that back, or?
Yes, we've looked at our books, and I think what we're gonna try to do is every year toward the end of the year when the water is low, we're gonna try to dredge a little bit more since we do have quite a bit left to get out that our grant didn't allow us to do. So we received a proposal from McDaniel Services, our tenant. He is willing to do dredging price per yard, estimated days of service, 16 days is how long he says it will take him to get 2,500 yards out of the harbor and put it into our spoil area. For $40,000 is his proposal. Down payment of 20, remaining balance due when he's done.
That's cubic yards.
Yeah, how many?
It's $16 a cubic yard is what he's doing, yeah. He also had informed me, because, there's a lot of concrete walls and rock stuff that's around certain parts of the harbor out there. And he said that he would get as much as he was able to, just to get them out of the way, which would be fantastic, in itself, if we just got those out of the way. He didn't tell me what his scope of his ability was. He said he'll be able to get quite a bit of it. So he's kind of just, throwing that in as an extra.
Every decade or a couple of decades, we have to dredge this. Is that right?
Well, it's been, what,
20-something years.
20-something years
About
this
19
time.
years.
Yeah. Hopefully, with the Sweetwater diverter that was put in, in '09,
Yeah.
it won't be as much of a problem because that diverts a lot of the silt back into the canal.
Plus we raised the cost.
And you raise the causeway, which also cuts the silt coming in the upper end of the harbor. And this, what Terry's proposing here would be in the upper end of the harbor. And part of the reason for that, one is, your permit's open until September of '27, so you should take advantage of it when you can.
Sure.
Because once that permit closes, who knows, you have to go back through muscle surveys
Oh,
and all that.
No, we don't want to do all that again.
And the other thing is, that portion that I think, you all should do first, Alliance has some long-term plans to possibly erect a new dock there. Right now, it's not feasible because there's not enough water. This is an opportunity to possibly expand the port's capabilities as well. And I did speak with Robert Pride, and he said he could draw up a contract that would, simple contract that would meet, showing what the scope is, what elevation he needs to get to, and how he does that. And it would be somewhere, he said, maybe 5 to 10 hours worth of work, which would be at his rate, $1,000 to $2,000 for the engineering side of it. And then, of course, Terry would have to provide a survey at the end to show that he met that.
Right.
And you can do this because it's under the bid cap without going to bid. So,
Okay. So we wanted to dredge the whole thing, but the cost was just outrageous. So what we did is we determined the key area that needed to be done to make business run as usual. So we did that, and then now we're moving to the next one. next one, as we can get it done. We just want to be, to get the harbor where it needs to be. And Robert Pride is with Engineers of the South. He's been the port engineer for a long time. He's also does work for the city of Florence not sanitation, but the wastewater, stuff like that. So he's been a good friend of the port and really taking care of us.
Absolutely.
Anything else on the dredging?
That's it, just the proposal.
Okay, so we don't need to vote on anything yet.
Yeah, you need to make a motion to
Yeah,
accept or
Do
not.
it, yeah.
I'll make a
Do you
motion.
have any?
Before you make that motion, I think my only concern is that whenever we began the dredging, my impression was that from a competitive bid standpoint, that they looked at it in terms of the entire project rather than in portions of the project. So my concern is that it may very well be under the $50,000 cap unless they say that this project wasn't $40,000. This project was the entire cost of the dredging effort.
What's the criteria that you're seeing that makes you concerned with that?
Well,
Length of time between when we finish versus starting, or that permit window that he's talking about? I mean, what was it that raised concern?
I don't pretend to know all of the factors that they look at just off the top of my head. I mean, but I do know that you can think of it in terms of, for example, us building this office building. You know, I mean, if there are substantial changes along the way, I mean, you can't build half the office and then build the other half under a different contract. They're gonna look at that as one thing. So, I mean, to the extent we're doing dredging at the port, I mean, I think that they would look at that as
Well,
a continuation.
well, we had two separate contracts already. The contract with Bubba Doss that we did was on the port, and then
That's right.
there's a totally separate contract that the Corps had with him to do dredging as well.
That's right.
Two
But we
separate
didn't-
contracts.
But we didn't have to bid out. So did we originally bid out just the portion that Bubba was gonna do?
Yes.
Okay. And then we didn't have to bid out anything at all with respect to the large portion that was dredged, because that contract was directly between the Corps and whoever their contractor, right?
Well, yeah, it was, ended up being Bubba because of
That's
the
right.
money.
So now that he's completed that portion,
Right.
I mean, this would be the rest of the project. So I think that they would look at that as, at least with regards to us, the first part that was done and the last part that was done.
He
So,
made reference to the
because-
building, he made reference to the building as an example. So when we completed the project, if we came back 6 months later and decided to expand the parking lot to go around behind the building and over to this side at $50,000, he's saying we would have had to rebid that.
What, say that again?
If we came back after we finished this and occupied the building, and say 6 months later, we decided to expand the parking to go behind the building over to the edge of the hill back here at a cost of $50,000, would we have had to rebid that
Not
as
necessarily.
part of the building project?
I mean, number one, it's only gonna be an issue if somebody makes it an issue,
Well,
right?
true, but that-
I mean, but I think the court would look to what your intent was. I mean, if you were intended, if you intended to skirt the competitive bid rules, then they would obviously have an issue with it. I mean, but when something's 6 months spread apart like that, and it wasn't necessarily even contemplated in the original plan, I don't know that it would matter.
But I thought-
I think the issue here is, you know, by breaking it apart, how we broke it apart, my concern would be that they would come back and they would say, we're going to lump this first bid into it. But when we sent him that original proposal, it was for this particular portion of the work. I mean, it didn't say that, you know, I mean, it was just for what he was gonna get done.
Or what we could get done for the money, yeah.
So So do you want to study on it and bring us?
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
mean, does
see
he
your,
need an answer right now?
Well, the only thing that he's looking at is being able to do it in a timely manner before
Before the
winter.
water comes back.
Yeah, well, the water won't come back till April, but
Mhm.
before winter sets in, you know, heavy. That's all he's looking at, because he's talking about, what, 2 weeks of work, basically. So,
I mean, would he plan to finish that in the next 30 days?
he was planning on doing it, if it was approved today, he was planning on doing it in November.
Okay.
So what's the risk if we just move forward?
Well, I mean, I think obviously if something, if something was required to be competitively bid, that contract would be void in itself. I mean, so if you approved it and we thought that there was an issue, we could always just terminate the contract before we perform the work.
Well, if you can find anybody that can do it for $16 a yard,
Oh, I agree, 100%.
Yeah, I thought that's incredible.
it cost us $48 a yard before.
Yeah.
I say we
see.
move forward.
I see his concern, but the way that we've approached it, I mean, it really seems like it's a separate part of its own. I mean, that's one reason it needs dredging back here is because we've always dredged, I say always, the other time that we dredged, we dredged the main part forward and not to the very back. So, you know, and put it in those terms, and again, when I came on the board, that was right on the tail end of that dredging, so I vaguely remember some conversation about it, but the back wasn't dredged.
Right.
And it wasn't dredged this time because it wasn't the main part. So I mean, it seems like it isolates itself in its own project to me. But also, I mean, I see where you're coming from. But I also don't feel like that was a definitive, whoa, can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, if time is of the essence, I mean, I think the board would be okay to approve it, and then if we just need to terminate it, we can.
Yeah,
Well, let's put it up to a vote.
yeah.
Okay.
I was about to make that
You
motion.
made the motion?
Yeah.
There's a
I'll
second,
second.
there's a second, okay. All in favor of moving forward, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
So I went to the bank last week and tried to take off the past board members off of, as bank signers and to put myself on there. And before, we only had to take my employment contract, or Hal had to take his up there. Well, now, they're requiring minutes so they're requiring a motion to take Katie Beth and Darlene off as signer and to put me on as, and Hal, got to take him off too.
What about Michelle? Was she ever on?
She never was on it.
Okay.
So I actually need two motions, one to take off and one to put me back on, or put me on, yeah.
Okay, need a motion to
Make a motion to take off.
take off. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then a motion to add.
I'll make a motion to add.
Yeah, my second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, perfect. That's the way I thought it always worked. You
Just
should have minutes to
Yeah,
prove.
you had probably decide everything you had done here,
Brian, secretary treasurer on there.
showed that you.
That's a good idea.
knew.
Board member.
Bill,
Okay, yes.
sorry. Can we redo the adding motion? I think we need to put Ryan on there as a signer, since he's the secretary treasurer of the board.
Yeah, well, I thought all board members were signers. I mean,
Mm-mm.
They haven't been.
They haven't
in the
been.
past.
okay.
Just the president, vice president, secretary treasurer.
Okay, all right, okay. Do I have a motion to add Ryan?
I'll
He's
second.
the secretary.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, we got it.
Okay, thank you. All right, if you'll turn to page 9. This is our quarterly operating report. Again, if you will look at, we didn't do bad, all things considered, because we are, the wharfage continues to decline. So our net income was negative 6,300. But it's gonna level off in this upcoming year. Our income was up 24% from last year. But so is our expenses. If you turn to page 10, this is our profit and loss budget versus actual. We're 37% above on our, what we budgeted. Again, accounting for the project account and grants and appropriations, because we did get the 550,000 grant money is included in all of this as well. So we're 37% above on income. You flip over and look at the chart. If you'll notice, even though, if you notice, our tonnage is continuing to a slight hill. It's a very small hill, but it's going up just a little bit. Our revenue, though, if you will notice, our revenue is steadily increasing every time. The expenses, again, that's that non-recurring expense that won't be affecting anything after probably the first of the year. And our actual operating income for '24 as of September is 135,702. If you look at the next chart, you will notice, bless you, Amcor is actually up 10,800 tons from the previous year. AFC, well, that's actually Woodall. Woodall is up 22,880. Alliance Sand is down 728 tons, and of course Tennessee Southern is down 509 tons.
Okay, and tell them what kind of, obviously Alliance Sand is sand.
Yeah. Tennessee Southern handles all of our aluminum that comes in. Right when President Trump put the tariff on imports on metals, Tennessee Southern just kind of all their aluminum kind of went away. They haven't done anything since about 2020, correct, Hal?
Yeah, it's been very sparse.
Very, very little.
Went from 150,000 tons a year to maybe 10,000.
Yeah. They do have super sacks of silica stored in the warehouse that they do truck out every now and then. And this down 500 tons from the previous year, that's of the super sacks that they're down from. Any questions? I'm sorry, I'm
You're done? It's gonna be good. All right, the McDaniel proposal, we've already done that.
yeah, okay, yeah.
All right, any public hearing? You got anything? Okay. Board member comments. Anybody have anything they want to say?
Welcome
Okay, well,
Scott and Ryan to the board.
Glad to be here. All right, staff report, is there a staff report?
I don't have anything.
All right, well then we are adjourned. I didn't do too bad.